Say it again. Donald Trump's mass deportation system makes me think of what a modern day slave patrol would look like. Slave patrols were armed groups empowered by the government to control, intimidate, and terrorize people solely based on color. That's what's happening now. Donald Trump is sending mass agents without warrants into communities of color to terrorize the people who live there.
And actually, what the president is doing through the Secretary of Defense is creating units, official military units, to quite frankly watch the American people. And that's the thing that is absolutely abhorrent. It reminds me so much of what happened in Germany in the 1930s.
I mean, you think of other disproportionate uses of violence, like, I mean, the Tulsa Race Massacre. I know it's not completely analogous, or say like COINTELPRO and the FBI going after Black and civil rights activists and things like that, but not really. I mean, the comparisons that I make are the Gestapo.
Look at these videos coming out of places like Chicago. It makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to see people in law enforcement, people in uniform military get nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians. It is a very, very stressful situation for these law enforcement and for the communities on the ground. So it was basically a warning to say, like, if you're asked to do something, particularly against American citizens.
A few moments later.
But of course, there's so much controversy happening in the United States right now with ICE, who are also wearing uniforms and wearing masks. And so you don't know, people walking around with uniforms in an American city. There are some Americans that might object to that. And so apparently this shooting has happened.
What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, y'all, by this time, I'm sure you've heard that there was an ambush shooting in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, this afternoon that seriously, critically injured 2 uniformed National Guardsmen. Well, y'all, more details are coming out by the hour on this story. The FBI has come out. Kash Patel made an announcement that they would be leading the investigation. But news started to come out about the suspect. And it's very concerning because this man, whose name I will not name, but has been taken into custody after being shot reportedly multiple times and being apprehended at the scene, this man is an immigrant from Afghanistan. An illegal alien from Afghanistan who was allowed in the country in 2021. And it's very disturbing to me to hear these details come out because that is right about the time that Joe Biden was allowing unvetted aliens from all over the world into this country. And you would see a certain conservative news outlet cover the story down at the border, especially in my state of California. Also in Texas, it was very controversial at the time. And you also seen some lone wolf reporters, some independents, going down there, getting footage, getting coverage. And they were reporting back on their independent channels and networks. And we were sitting here in awe saying, this can't be right. It looks so much like an invasion. It's so illegal. What are we to do as citizens? And we felt hopeless in the moment. But we couldn't help but feel like something bad was going to come of this. And y'all, an Afghan man, only 29 years old, resided in Washington State, traveled all the way to Washington, D.C., and it's being reported on certain outlets that he screamed a certain thing before he committed this act. And y'all know, I ain't got to say it here, y'all know what they scream when they on a crash out mission. Right before it goes bad, right before it goes left, they holler that one thing. Y'all can put it in the chat if you know what it is. But it's being reported that he said it, he screamed it right before he let off multiple shots at these uniformed officers. And what really gets my goat is that when you see a country in decline, you see a country in chaos, you see the Biden administration conducting themselves as illegal tyrants. Now they want to talk about no kings. Well, that administration sure acted kingly when they let all of these illegals into the country. But what bothers me is that we saw the police, the ones that are supposed to serve and protect us, the ones that are supposed to protect the nation, we saw them facilitate an invasion of this country. Y'all, they don't know who's here. And neither do you or I. It creates a problem. And can you imagine when the Chinese get active? Can you imagine when the Russians get active? Because people have entered this country from all over the world with nefarious intent. And your government is saying, oh, trust us. We'll take care of it. Well, y'all the same ones that allowed it, because I don't see you cleaning house much. Even in the FBI, you ain't cleaning house much. Nobody from the previous administration has been perp walked. Ain't nobody going to jail. How are we supposed to believe that y'all gonna handle this? Well, as more information comes out about this incident, doesn't make me feel good about the future of this country moving forward, because y'all can't get them out fast enough. Day after day, we hear these kinds of stories from folks that were allowed to enter this country, were allowed to infiltrate American society. And not only that, but y'all paid them. Put them in plush hotels, gave them cars, gave them food, gave them medical coverage. They walking around with free braces, and your kid walking around with crooked teeth because you can't afford them. You proud American, you. That's what we're dealing with, y'all. And I don't want to get too riled up on this, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and I'm going to give thanks. Even as I sit here, I am thankful for it all. I am thankful for my health and my strength and my family and my education and my mind. Y'all, there's so many people walking around among us who are just outright crazy. They pretend to be normal, but they are not. They are not. Some of these folks need to be locked up. They need to be institutionalized, and yet they are walking the streets and sleeping on the streets, committing all manner of crimes from city to city. Well, y'all, you think it's bad in the nation's capital? Imagine how bad it is in places like Chicago, where they won't even allow the National Guardsmen in there. Imagine how bad it is in my sanctuary state, where you got folks that are going back and forth over the border, flowing like water back and forth. The cartel has boots on the ground in this state. They are operating actively in this state. Well, what are we going to do about it? Ain't much we can do about it, but depend on the same people who allowed it to happen. Ain't that something? And here we are, trying to stay faithful, trying to stay hopeful, trying to be jolly a little peace in the holiday season. And here we got two people who got up and went to work as they were supposed to, as they were charged by their senior officers and authorities. Got up and were on duty trying to protect the people of D.C. Thought they were going to go home to whatever home is. And it didn't work out that way. They caught bullets the day before Thanksgiving. We remain prayerful at this moment for them that they'll pull through. But let this be a warning to y'all. We can't depend on the same people who caused the problem. These elected officials, I don't care if they got R's or D's by their name. They are two sides of the same coin, two wings on the same bird, y'all. It's going to be up to you and I when the rubber really meets the road. Are you prepared? Mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, are you prepared for what is coming in this country? Because they're here. Let's get into this story, y'all. There's been some good reporting on it. Some good details have come out, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. On this eve of Thanksgiving, and tomorrow we're going to spend the day being thankful And hopefully those charged to protect us will do just that.
You on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where two of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice. Since this is an assault on a federal law enforcement officer, this will be treated at the federal level as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. The FBI will lead out on that mission with our interagency partners, to include the Department of Homeland Security, Secret Service, ATF, DEA. And we're thankful for the mayor's assistance in this matter, the Metropolitan Police Department and their skills in investigating homicides and gun shootings in this city is exceptional. We will work together collaboratively because this is a matter of national security, because it's a matter of pride. President Trump has been informed. We've been in contact with the White House. We will shortchange the American public with no resources to make sure we find and safeguard our nation's capital right here in Washington, D.C., and bring anyone responsible for this heinous act of violence to justice.
Chief.
Sure. So no, at this time, there's no indication that there was any other suspect. The one suspect that was involved in this incident, they were shot during the interaction, and they were transported to the hospital for treatment.
Mayor, does this validate the need for the National Guard here in D.C.?
What we know, Andrea, is that this is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
Mayor, can you tell us any more details on the condition of the two National Guardsmen and whether or not anyone else was injured? And a quick question follow-up for the FBI director. You said that we'll make sure we find the perpetrators for this act. So just to clarify, the person believed to be responsible is in custody and there are no other suspects.
Sure. So I can start out. Again, Chief Carroll from MPD. So both the individuals, the Guard members, they are in critical condition at a local hospital at this time being treated. At this point, we have no other suspects. We have reviewed video from the area. It appears, like I said, to be a lone gunman that raised a firearm and ambushed these members of the National Guard, and he was quickly taken into custody by other National Guard members and law enforcement members.
Have you got any sense of motive?
No, at this time, obviously, we're very in the preliminary stages of investigation. There's a lot of things, a lot of agents that are here from various federal agencies, law enforcement agencies. We have the full power of the FBI and our federal partners here in the task force. So we're looking at all those different aspects, but we don't have any motive.
Armed, sir?
The National Guardsmen that were shot, I'm told they were armed.
Did they get off shot?
At this time, that's part of the preliminary investigation.
Can you explain how the suspect was apprehended?
Chief.
Sure. So how the suspect was apprehended, as I said, the individual, the suspect came around the corner. He immediately started firing a firearm at the two National Guard members. So at that time, there were other National Guard members that were in the area. They heard the gunfire. They actually were able to intervene and to kind of hold down the suspect after he had been shot on the ground until law enforcement got there within moments.
And he was shot by a National Guard.
At this point, we're still investigating exactly who shot the individual. It's not clear at this time.
Has there been tension with the National Guard? I mean, NPR spoke with a number of National Guard members from Ohio on the condition of anonymity, and they talked to them just the other day, on November 10th. And they talked about the deployment to various cities, including D.C. One said, "This is not what I signed up for." 3 of them declined voluntary deployments, and they were deeply uncomfortable with what they were doing. Has it been tense with the National Guard around?
So it has not been tense as far as the public and the National Guard, but I think it really is no secret that many of the National Guard folks don't understand what the purpose of their being there is. I know that I have quick interactions with them when I see them occasionally, and they'll roll their eyes. They'll one of them said that he thought it was a waste of time, and so I think they understood at first when they were deployed there with all the other federal resources, but then so many of the federal resources have been pulled back out of D.C., and yet the National Guard has stayed there. And they're staying at first it was the touristy spots. You saw them down near the museums and the monuments along the mall. And then it seemed like that they were deployed to many of the downtown subway metro stations. And so I know that I don't feel like there's tension with the public and the National Guard or with their presence, but I do think that that many of them wonder why they're there, what their purpose is, and how long they're going to be there.
Their presence is also under question, whether it's legal. Last week, a federal judge ruled the Trump administration's deployment of the National Guard in D.C. was unlawful, arguing it lacks authority and is violating the District of Columbia's sovereign powers under the Home Rule Act. The Trump administration is appealing that order. They filed their appeal, Ken, last night.
Where a focus will turn to whether these guardsmen were specifically targeted. If that's the case, it would fit with what we've been hearing from law enforcement officials for a number of months now, that some political flashpoints in the country, whether that's immigration policies by the administration, the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, even amid a tenuous ceasefire, those kinds of flashpoints have made people in uniform, be they military, law enforcement, government officials, people in uniform, have increasingly been targets, and that is going to be one focus of the investigation going forward, Kira.
Of two people fighting for their lives, guardsmen, that this president put there. And as I said, I was one that was very vocal against that. But I'm not going to belittle the fact that their lives are at stake to get into a back and forth with the president. I can say that if I'm a member of their families, I don't want to hear what he's saying about Honduras right now. I want to pray that these two guardsmen who were ordered there and who we're being told by the mayor was ambushed, make it through. And all of this about sending in 500 people, what does that have to do with where we are now? I think that we've got to, those of us that have been opposed to the president's policy, show that we're not going to morally match him by going down to a level of insensitivity. There are two people fighting for their lives on Thanksgiving Eve. And it just seems ironic to me that people that pardoned people assaulting police officers are now talking about how they're going to uphold and look up to the people in the building. People in that building were beat January 6th. So
the suspect entered the United States in 2021. He's an Afghan national, had been residing in Washington State, and 29 years old, and carried out this targeted attack. So that's what we know at this time. We are waiting for a presser. It sounds like it just got canceled. So we were hoping to hear more from officials. Unclear if they've just pushed it back, but we were expecting to be hearing from officials in the next hour or two. That's where we stand. Now we hear that both of the injured National Guard troops are in critical condition, gravely wounded, and the suspect was wounded as well by gunfire and is in the hospital in the custody of law enforcement.
Anna, you just released some more information about the suspect. Again, where is he living and where was he currently living at the time?
He was from Washington State, 29 years old, entered the country in 2021, is an Afghan national, according to multiple law enforcement sources. Our sources, my colleague Camilo Montoyo Galvez, he's been talking to his sources at THS, Nicole Skanga as well, and they have a name that's been circulating amongst law enforcement. They've pinned that down. They're looking at the immigration file, and they are trying to pin down a motive, investigators are asking him questions, and we're hoping to get more information as the evening goes on.
Absolutely. So the shooting happening just blocks away from the White House. Are we going to see stepped up security in D.C. as a result?
For sure. Absolutely. D.C. already has a lot of security, but that doesn't stop a lone wolf from being able to conceal a weapon like a gun, unfortunately. I mean, that's what we wrestle with here in our society, security versus personal liberty. And so it's impossible to completely rule out that a lone wolf actor can carry out an attack like this. I want to remind our viewers, just about 6 months ago in May, somebody opened fire and killed 2 Israeli embassy employees. They were leaving a Jewish museum, which happens to be across the street from the FBI Washington field office, which is known to be a very secure area, but he was able to bring a gun in. Just like in this case, the suspect, this 29-year-old man, brought the weapon to a busy metro station close to the White House. This time of year, lots of tourists milling around, very busy time of year, and was able to open fire and gravely wound 2 National Guard troops. And we're told it was a targeted, intentional attack.
President Trump's deployment of the National Guard was ruled illegal by a D.C. federal judge over a week ago. So why were the National Guard still there?
Well, President Trump has leaned into this policy of putting National Guard troops on city streets around the country. And it's been going back and forth in the court system, and they had not been pulled back. Remember, he used a very rarely used statute to deploy the National Guard in other cities, but in DC proper, he actually had the power to do it, but there was a time limit. It was about 30 days of a time limit that then extended. So it's this murky area with the law, and it's been very confusing, actually, what is allowed and what is overreach.
Anna Schechter. Anna, thank you.